Good morning and welcome to the Small Business Support Group show. It is, I nearly said Wednesday then. It's not Wednesday, is it? No, it is Thursday, the 21st of May. We are here live on Facebook channel and also the YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you want to add any comments, please use the Small Business Support Group page to add comments so we can put them up on screen. If you are watching on anybody's watch party, you can leave comments on there, but that means it will go directly to them and not to us here at the studio. I don't know if we'll call it that anyway. So we've got Grant's in. He's got his cap on. Morning. How are you? Oh, have I not got any sound? Or have you got any sound?
No, sorry, it's me. I muted you. Beg your pardon. Sorry.
That's all right.
Morning.
Morning. Maz is here. Hello, Maz.
Good morning.
Do you want to introduce your special guest and I'll bring him up on screen?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Do it straight away.
Oh, okay. Quick insight into my guest today. He set up and ran a very successful family food service business, serving some of the most prominent high-profile chefs and high street brands in the country. 2018 was a year of some very difficult lessons for him as his business declined. During that time, he found himself, I'd say, in a negative cycle, and very quickly he realized that he must break away from it. So he decided to flip the story. Instead of focusing on why has this happened to me, he asked himself how he could be happy again and feel fulfilled. He gained some important insights about risk-taking. His experience taught him some very valuable lessons, which I'm going to let him share. And I've taken away some great golden nuggets from our conversations recently. And one of the things he said is, and I resonated with and I liked, is he said, I believe it's a blessing to experience a major failure and draw on abilities to reboot for a second time round. We move forward with knowledge and expertise we didn't have the first time. The key is to tuck ego away and to apply knowledge gained the hard way. This leads to smarter choices that enable us to more purposefully control the business and life we deserve. Success doesn't take a straight line. There often are many twists, turns, and bumps along the way. Life can change in an instant. What is most important one day could totally change by the next. Look at each challenge in your business as an opportunity, and you'll realize some of today's biggest failures will actually provide the greatest foundation for future success. Where I've had the privilege to connect with him is through a video podcast called Combat Files. He is the founder and host of this podcast, and he provides a space for his guests to openly and safely discuss their challenges and success in their life, how they combat their trials and tribulations, and much more. Currently, he is in the process of doing his NLP course, as well as an executive coaching program. He is looking at using his skill set to coach leaders, and on this executive coaching program, have I just froze?
No.
Oh, no, haven't I? Okay. He believes that there are only two ways sorry, I froze there. He believes there's only two ways to influence human behavior. One, you can manipulate it, or two, you can inspire it. And he wants to inspire it. If the leaders of the organization can't clearly articulate why the organization exists in terms beyond its products or services, then how do they expect the employees to know why to come to work? Because the role of a leader is not to come up with all the great ideas. The role of a leader is to create an environment in which great ideas can happen. So on that note, let's welcome Mr. Azat Rabbani.
There we go. We haven't got any applause, Azar. Sorry about that. After that introduction, that's an amazing introduction. Morning, Azar. How are you?
Maz is very kind, as always.
She's to you, to nobody else, I don't think, on the show. Anyway, we'll be coming to you later on. We're just going to do a little bit of what we're going to be coming up. Grant, we don't know what you're talking about. You haven't put on your WhatsApp group.
Sorry, I do apologise. I am excited. I did share it, actually. I forgot to mention that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I listened to a really interesting YouTube video this morning by a guy called, what's his name? I'll come back to you with his name. I actually can't see his name, but he's a doctor who's given us some really interesting information about the long-term effects of having caught coronavirus, which are positive, and the immune system.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll get that up on screen in a bit. So that's the good news, guy, isn't it? It's reinfection unlikely. That's what you'll be talking about. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just going to briefly talk about AstraZeneca, which this morning announced something that was really important. It was like the third news item down on Radio 5 Live this morning, which I'm not quite sure why. They're working with the Oxford University for a vaccine, which is just in the end of its trials for COVID-19. And they're saying if it all goes well, they'll have 1 billion vaccines ready for September. So that's what I'll be talking about, which is interesting. Yeah, I know, it's amazing. But what we're going to do now, obviously, Maz has already done the introduction for Azar. But Maz, do you want to say anything else before we just get Azar to speak to us today?
No, I am going to give Azar the stage, the limelight.
Okay, Azar, this is your stage. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you very much, guys. It's great to be here. I'm loving the stuff that you're doing. It's really, really cool. So I'd like to really start at the beginning. Originally, my parents are from India. I was born in southeast London. Grew up in the Middle East. My father went out there for some work for 6 months, stayed there 22 years. Educated in Saudi in an American school, got my O's and A's in the UK, and then did a marketing degree in Boston University in the United States. 1998, I came back from the USA, and we walked straight into a recession. So didn't have a job, couldn't find a job, and decided to set up Penta Foods, which is the food service business in my mother's garage. And it was really with my father and my older brother at that time. And it was a hard slog. I spent 18 years walking the boards in London, picking up accounts, talking to chefs, really understanding the industry and the business. I knew nothing about this. So really learning the trade through my clients. Over the span of the business, 27 years, we became sort of food service market sector leaders in terms of the company, in terms of the service we provided and the goods and the products that we sold. 255 staff in its heyday, 2 depots in Manchester and Farnborough, 80 vehicles, multi-temp vehicles. And, at the height of the business, it was turning over 42 million. And there's certain things that I'm really grateful for, in the sense that it gave me a lifestyle. It supported the entire family. So all my 4 siblings were working in there, and my parents were also shareholders. So it's, a true family business, Asian style, I guess. And in 2011, we bought out a competitor. So we bolted that on to the business that added about 3.5 million in terms of sales revenue. We were supplying high street brands like Wagamama's, Giraffe, Carluccio's, and a lot of independent, small, high-end, high-profile chefs, people like Jason Atherton and Gordon Ramsay. We also invested hugely in sort of technology, bringing paperless environment within the organization. And really, I was tasked with sales revenue. I was tasked with margin, managing the margin, and built a team really from scratch from 2007, and managed 25 people in that department. I want to really talk about the challenges and the adversity that we ran into in June of 2016. And I say June of 2016 because it actually had started a few years previously, but it really culminated. And that was, at that point, it was a Brexit vote that potentially knocked us sideways. So just to give you an idea, we had roughly about 10 containers on the water, which was coming in for one of our largest clients, which is Wagamama's. And overnight, because of the Brexit vote, we had a currency fluctuation, which added 25% to the cost of the landed goods. And we had just done a deal with Wagamama's, and we were completely off sync when it came to the selling price. The other thing, perhaps, that hindsight's a great thing, we didn't do is we didn't cut costs quick enough over the next 2 years. We weren't aggressive enough in doing that. 2017 general election caused a lot of uncertainty on the high street and caused sort of spending to dip. And in 2018, August of 2018, that was really where there was a massive event that happened on the bank holiday, on the Friday bank holiday in the evening. We had a cyber attack on our systems, and it was a ransomware attack, so they were asking for money. And it knocked us sideways. I mean, it encrypted all the data files on the primary servers and the secondary servers. Now, you can imagine we were very heavily sort of reliant on technology. We had no visibility of the day-to-day. We had nothing available to see. We didn't know what cash was coming in, what orders were coming in, and where deliveries were going. So, and chefs were expecting deliveries the next day. So that was really tough, and it was a tough thing to manage. And we made a lot of big mistakes in managing the expectation of clients and customers. So from August of that year to sort of 23rd of November of 2018, I watched my entire business slip away. I watched it, just wash away, and I had very, very difficult conversations with some very close customers of mine, asking them to find alternative suppliers. I was giving my competitors' names simply because I felt that it was the right thing to do, to be able to be, to have the integrity to help protect their brand. 2018, December of 2018 to March of 2019, we actually bought the trade and assets out of the original company, but that second business also collapsed in March. And the reason basically was because the investor didn't invest enough money. In October of last year, I actually got a job with a competitor, a national food service business, and I lasted about 5 months there because we did not agree in my management style of the 10 people I was actually managing. I think the problem was that I was perhaps a little bit too empathetic with my team's needs. The impact of all of this is really interesting because that's really allowed me to look at a lot of areas of my life. And when you are in a situation where you spend 30 years doing one thing, you get into an automated sort of default cyclical routine. And it tested a lot of the relationships internally, externally within the business, but also relationships with my own family on a personal level. And that I had to really dig deep to have some really authentic and honest conversations about where we were as a business, with my staff, which is again another big challenging thing to do, but you have to be very honest about it. And then the family members also. Self-awareness, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about the depth of understanding myself and the energy and the courage to be able to do certain things. And the financial impact was huge. I mean, you look at the sort of massive income loss, you look at the loss of lifestyle, you're looking at the financial fallout, and that is interesting, is it because out of the 4 directors, 2 have gone bankrupt and 2 actually are on IVAs, and these are my siblings I'm talking about, myself. So, spent really 2019 acclimatizing to my new normal. And this is where I really want to talk about how my experience, it sort of relates to what's going on today, because what I went through in 2019 and the impact that it had on especially my own family, my wife, my kids, and my parents and brothers, that's everybody's going through something similar now on a global level. And I wanted to really tie this into that. So one of the things I did was I actually decided to identify my why. Why is it what I do? Why is it what I've done? And the why to me is really important because it gives me a lot of direction. So I've written my why down, and I'm just going to read it out. I love to share my knowledge. I love to share my experiences, ideas, and story. To do that, I wish to empower and inspire those around me to speak up, to seek help, and to take action to help themselves transition into a better state of being. And that sits squarely with me, and that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast, and I'll touch on that a little later on. And it also allowed me to look at this opportunity that I'm sitting in now, because I don't have a business to go back to. I don't have cost base to worry about. I don't have wages or staff or anything like that. So I'm starting from a clean slate. So I have to identify that that's a massive opportunity, and that we're all at the same starting point. But I'm on a mission now to innovate and recreate myself, and that really started after around October of last year. So one of the things, as Maz said, I'm doing my NLP practitioner's course. I'm doing ILM 7, which is a sort of executive coaching certification. I'm looking for non-executive directorships also. And I'm working with a charity, or just about to start working with a charity, looking at the CRM system, integrations with other cloud technologies, things like workflows, and how we can improve their donor experience. And I've got a couple of new sort of business ideas projects on the go at the moment. But the most important thing here to identify is what I can give back. And it's this experience of adversity, it's the experience of distressed businesses or individuals, where I bring an insight into being risk aware rather than risk averse. Things like, in a business scenario, if somebody takes me on and takes my mentoring or advisory service, would be to look at not only things like costs and system, and systems, and see how efficient the business is. But I think there's other areas of looking at sort of the emotional level and emotional check of the staff. Internal communication is really important. It's a big thing in business, especially if you're looking to upscale. And customer engagements, I think that's really also very, very big at the moment. These are all soft skills that are required to really manage the internal and the external piece. And I think that those are really important to identify. So the two new projects that I'm doing, one is really setting up a mentoring service, looking at how I can advise and mentor businesses. I want to start up a NLP and executive coaching clinic, whether it's online or eventually face-to-face. And then my NAD services to various businesses. It's nothing new. A lot of people are doing it, but I guess my USP is the fact that I've been through adversity, and I bring perhaps a different point of view. I really believe that my experience is an asset to businesses and business entrepreneurs, and especially those who are smart enough to identify the value that my experience will bring to their boardroom and organization. I think and not everyone can see that. But here's the thing. Failure to me is all about credibility, and it's about gravitas. And through managing a distressed sort of and declining organization, I think if you can come out of it the other side, it just puts you in a very, very strong position to do whatever you want to do. The other sort of area, I guess, is or the other project I've been working on is a project which is just starting. It's very, very early doors, which is basically dealing with statelessness, a feeling of statelessness. I was born in the UK, but I traveled all over the world, and I don't find that being in the UK necessarily is home for me. So dealing with and engaging with people in a forum, and that's something that I'm working with somebody in Australia on that, and it's a small project that we started. Podcasting is my life at the moment. As Maz said, it's a safe space that I want to create, and I think it's really important that I do that for my own self. And I want to finish off by really mentioning a quote by the late Nelson Mandela. And I quote, "I never lose, I either win or I learn."
Thanks for that. That was. It's always great to hear someone's story as they go along, because obviously all entrepreneurs and business people always have the ups and downs through their business life, and it's refreshing to hear that. To hear how how well it's how well you've bounced back from the problems you've had. What is the name of your podcast again?
It's Combat Files.
Combat Files. Okay.
Yeah, there's a website. Also, combatfiles.com.
Oh, okay, brilliant. We'll have a look at that. So I'll get that up on screen. And that's not to just put aside what you've said, but obviously I'm quite interested in the podcast side of thing. And what do you do? What do you actually talk about on the Combat Files? Is that?
Well, we talk about sort of the trials and tribulations of individuals in their journey to either bounce back or how they've dealt with challenges. And it's not only challenges, more importantly, it's also successes, because you can also go off track if you become very successful. And it's dealing with those life-changing moments and life-changing issues that allows. I want to create a platform, and goes back to my why, where I want to share my guests' knowledge and their experiences to be able to make a difference to somebody else. And that's, I think, really important. It's also a very therapeutic process for myself to be able to do that.
That's cool. Grant, you got anything you want to just ask or anything?
Yeah, I'm firstly, hi, nice to meet you.
Hi.
And kudos to you for being able to embrace, the turmoil that you went through so soon afterwards. From my own experience, when I've lost businesses in the past, back in 2015, I lost a business, and I found it very difficult to talk about. Probably for 3 years, I think it took me before I could openly discuss it. It was horrendous, the feeling of sort of guilt and the whole sort of emotional roller coaster that it takes you on. So I'm just really, I've got a lot of respect for you being able to, what seems like not very long ago, having gone through all that, being able to openly, discuss it and help other people with it. Because it is, I talk about this a lot with my mentees, that the failures that I've had in business are far more valuable to me than the successes. They really, really are.
That's cool.
Thank you very much, Grant. That means a lot. Thank you.
Maz, do you want to raise any points? I know you speak to Azar quite a lot, but it's no questions at all. You bring a guest on, don't ask a question.
I was expecting Maz to go on for. I've got loads of questions if you want me to carry on, because
ask another question. We've got a couple of points to raise.
I'm fascinated by entrepreneurial psychology and the traits of successful people, and pretty much every super successful entrepreneur has got a number of failures to their name. Usually loads more failures than successes. And you've obviously you're using your failure. I just wondered what your kind of ambitions are now, because for somebody who's run a big business like you did, big family business, have you got any now aspirations to do the same again?
No.
No. Next question.
My ambition is in a very different space. I'm still ambitious. And I think, my kids are grown up, so they're in their 20s now. And I don't have that pressure of cost. So it's not driven necessarily by money. At the moment, I'm going through an IVA. So that there's that next 18 months from a financial perspective, I need to find income to manage that. But once I'm out of the IVA, I need very little to survive on, because it's just me and my wife and my daughter. But from a financial perspective, no. Where I would sit in terms of my ambition is this why is the idea of how can I help others? I'm looking at potentially mentoring a couple of young startups, looking at how I can help them and bring my insights into that, and looking at also, especially the current situation. The current situation, guys, this is not going to go away for possibly years, and the impact of this will that have. And wherever I can help to be able to try to bring some sort of forward view and allow them to actually make informed decisions is really where my stomach burns at the moment. And I'm not interested in the fast cars and the big houses anymore. I've done that piece, and it's done.
Fair enough. That's again. Maz and me were just texting how wonderful this show's going today, because it's really honest and it's very refreshing. So we're just going to go on, because we're trying we'll try and keep this to about half an hour. Sometimes it runs over. So I'm just going to briefly just pick up the other couple of subjects that we've got, which obviously I'll bring Grant in now regarding his reinfection story that he wants to talk about. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, so it was a study that I saw, and again, this was on YouTube. It's a guy that seems to be quite respectful. I still haven't been able to. If I try and find his name, it's going to play the video, which then will destroy the show. So I'll maybe we can put a link on afterwards, Matt. Yeah. I'll have a look. So really good guy. It's an English guy, and he's a scientist, and he's just done an excellent job of describing a study that's been done in Korea that's just been released, that gives us, if it's correct, again, I don't believe anything that's that's on YouTube just as a given, but if it is for real, is really, really encouraging. So effectively what the study shows is that once somebody's been infected with COVID-19, they are effectively immune. And that some of the results that we've been getting up to now to say that you're not immune are false positive results. But when you watch the video, it's actually a really spelt unlikely wrong, by the way, Matt.
No, I didn't.
On the podcast, he just spelt unlikely without
the. That's not on there. Not on there at all.
So that is fantastic news. It also shows, and he does a nice little hand drawing of how it works. It doesn't infect the DNA, which much like HIV does. In other words, once you get COVID, once you're cured of it, once you've not got it anymore, if you don't die from it, then you're unlikely to get it again, and you've actually got antibodies in your body that are likely to fight off the infection and reproduce themselves quickly and effectively should you catch it again. So this, if it ends up being true, and I say it was a report by scientists done in Korea, is a massive big deal, because it means if anybody has caught COVID-19 and got past it, there he is, John Campbell, and he does an excellent job of describing how it works. And thanks, Mum, for sending it to me. She's my sort of PA for stuff like this. She's awesome. It just means that, if we've had it, we can go back. We're not going to infect anybody. What a massive difference that's likely to make. And he's also massively relieved, because as a scientist himself, he knows that if it had infected the DNA, the core of the cell, then it's a completely different kettle of fish, because everybody could keep getting reinfected. Infected. Once you've got it, you've always got it. And the drugs would be to suppress it rather than cure it. So I think that as that becomes mainstream news, if indeed it is qualified, it's going to be a game changer, an absolute game changer, and it gives us massive hope for getting past this whole COVID chaos quickly, or quicker.
Well, I watched the video this morning as well, and it's he's very informative. I think he's very relaxed when he's talking, and it's sort of, he's not getting wound up in all the hype of everything, which is excellent. And if it's true, and there's no reason not to believe that it isn't, it seems that that could be a good thing for her. Oh, my Siri keeps coming on. Do apologise. So Siri keeps.
So we can't hear it.
That's well, I can. It's just telling me how good it was. So it's it is good. I mean, Maz, did you have a chance to look at the video this morning?
No, I've not had a chance, but I will have a look, Grant, because that is quite interesting. I know we have been questioning it on the last few shows as to whether we get it back again, so it'll be interesting to see. So no, definitely, I'll have a look at that.
Well, you talk a lot about schools. I mean, just for example, I've got two friends that were diagnosed with COVID-19 albeit they were diagnosed over the phone, which is slightly dubious.
How does that work?
Don't know. But we socialise with them regularly. Now, if they have both had COVID-19, effectively that means we'd be fine to socialise with them now if this result is actually accurate, because once they've got it, they're no longer going to be passing it on. That was the other thing. You can't infect anybody with it once you've had it, and they're effectively immune to it again. So just from my social life point of view, it's really good news.
That's
most
really
important,
cool.
obviously.
I mean, because obviously you've got Superdrug who announced yesterday that they have the antibody tests, which they want to run now, which is £69. It's not. They had somebody on the news this morning. It's 97% accurate, which is really good. But
and it's how much? 68 quid.
£69.
I thought it was £75.
No, it's £69. They said if you're on Superdrug.
That's a lot of money in it. How do they justify that?
Well, because they've bought it, I suppose. I don't know. They may be making a fast book because they can, and people will pay it because, that if you want to find out exactly if you had it or not. But, 3 out of 100 will get a false response there. So is that dangerous? I don't know. It could be. I'm just going to, sorry, Zara, did you want to say anything about that guy or any thoughts?
I think it's interesting because it really does change. If it's true, it's a game changer in terms of the perception of people going back to work and the safety aspect of it. I think it settles the mind, and I think that's really important from a performance perspective when you're going back into work, that you don't have to worry about this other issue. There's a lot of noise that goes around in our lives, and we have to be very careful. And so that's one less noise that we have to worry about when we go out back to work. So
no, that's true.
I mean, if you combine it with that antibody, it's effectively game over, isn't it? I mean, because if you've got an antibody test, and then we know that it's once you've had it, you can't get it again. It's basically job done, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a shame that Mark's not on today because this will be his thing because he's
he'd love this, wouldn't he?
you put your badge on. You've had the disease. You put the badge on, and off you go. Just go to work. That's the way it is. And then you've got AstraZeneca. I have spelt that correct. I've just double checked it before I put it up on screen. Now AstraZeneca does sound like some kind of dodgy a chemical company that you get from a very bad Bond movie. But AstraZeneca are the people who are going to be producing the vaccine that the Oxford University bods have invented. They're in, as I said earlier, they're in the final parts of their tests. In about 2 weeks, we'll know if it's working or not. And AstraZeneca said that they will have 1 billion doses of this by September, that as long as Oxford University says it's all okay to use, and it'll be ready to go out in September. So realistically, that's the end of it, isn't it? Is that it? Does anybody think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's weird that they've just sort of slipped it out.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. I think I still find it really crazy that we can't cure cancer, and we've never, ever been able to cure the common cold. But now actually we're going to magically create a vaccine to cure COVID-19. I mean, there was no vaccine for SARS, and that was in 2003, right? As well as there being no Ebola vaccine. And now they're saying that they would have a vaccine ready soon. I mean, never in the history of medicine, I'd say, have we come up with a vaccine to treat a sudden outbreak. I mean, the COVID vaccine, the one that the AstraZeneca are doing, it's breaking a lot of rules. Why is it? I think for me personally, I'll take my chances than having a hastily prepared vaccine. For me, and I think a lot of people need to question this, it will be important to get fit, lose weight, eat healthy, and build up an immune system so that I don't require a vaccine, because then we can fight it naturally. I've done some research into this company, AstraZeneca, and they've received more than $1 billion from the US, not to mention the millions that the UK has invested. I mean, to be exact, and I've got this figure off the Bloomberg paper this morning, the UK has put an investment of 65.5 million, and that money is to make 30 million doses available. I know you said a higher number, but in the Bloomberg in the morning, it said 30 million doses available by September for people in the UK, and then that money covers 100 million doses altogether. This is the world's fastest moving project to develop a single shot. I mean, AstraZeneca
That's correct, though, isn't it? Because I don't want to interrupt there, but first of all, your average flu jab every year is not the same flu jab every year. It's developed every year for the flu jab that goes out at winter. So they do, and don't forget, this is a COVID virus, so this is part of the flu family. It's not Ebola. It's not that. This is something they work on every single year to develop. And I never understand that, because how do they know how the flu virus that's coming out in, I think someone said this before, because I think it comes across the planet, but every year they change the flu virus, the vaccine, every single year. So yeah, they can do this because they have the technology to do this. And it's not AstraZeneca that's actually producing it. It's actually Oxford University that's doing it, don't forget. AstraZeneca is the company. AstraZeneca is the company that's got the money, has been given the money to develop it and get it out there. So it's just annoying. I understand the point you're making, Mads, but it is annoying that as soon as we get something that could just resolve all this, and I've seen the comments that have been made on this throughout, of course, all the channels this morning, is that oh well, there's from the one aspect that's saying don't inject yourself with anything, don't want to do that, it's too rushed, it's dodgy, to the other end where it's, they've thrown millions and millions of dollars and pounds into this to make sure it works. We need something to make this work, or else getting fit and getting healthy, I'm all behind that, I understand that, and getting your immune levels, but that takes time. This needs to happen as soon as possible, don't you think?
But don't you think then, as a nation, and this is just my opinion, that we're like guinea pigs? I would say no thanks. Give it to a nation and trial it on where it came from, and probably
it doesn't matter.
As numbers are high, then give it to the scientists and input with this pharmaceutical company, and then give it to the staff at the World Health Organization who's so keen for the nation to have it. Give it to us. By all means, let's have it in September.
Azar, what do you think? What's your point on this? Do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Maz. I think she makes a valid point, and it's a balance between, and I get the point that obviously it's a type of flu virus, so it's an extension of possibly the research that's already been going on for many years. But for me, I'm not a great advocate of taking vaccines and medication. My mind goes straight to a sort of suspicious corner and says, okay, what are the side effects? What are the sort of important aspects of this vaccine? Great, it takes one thing away, but does it bring another thing back, or does it put another thing in terms of our bodies? And I'm really nervous about putting anything in my body at the moment, to be honest with you.
Surely, isn't it just for the vulnerable anyway? I mean, I never take the flu vaccine and wouldn't dream of it.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't take the COVID vaccine either. But surely there are people that are extremely vulnerable that that would want to take it immediately to protect themselves, and because it's it's the lesser of two evils.
But if you don't, obviously that doctor's just said we can't. Hopefully it can't reinfect, but. I'm just thinking, shouldn't we everybody should be vaccinated just to get rid of the damn thing? I mean, I understand that it can change its form and it can come back again, and it will probably be in years to come treated like a normal flu virus, hopefully. But it's just, it just drives me insane because we have people moaning and saying stuff that's about, and not us lot, but other people saying, business has to get going. The planes are going to get flying. Holidays are going to start taking. Everybody's going to get back to work. It's not going to happen. We're going to be like this if we don't get something to combat it till next year. It'll be the same. We won't be able to open pubs and restaurants and all that, not correctly anyway. I mean, if you look at...
because there's something that it's just come to mind. So what Grant just said, I mean, Dr. John Campbell, if that report's correct, what I think, there's two things here before the vaccine comes in, which I believe that the government have actually failed. And one is the testing, clear testing. And the point that you made, Matt, is actually have a badge and say that I've been tested and I've got the virus, I'm clear. You can come talk to me. You can have some way of having identify it, and then maybe to those who have not been tested, for example, or who are very, very ill to see whether the vaccine will work for them. It's just there needs to be a quite a three-dimensional approach to this, and I just think that the government's come in from one point of view angle, and it's just it's this report that Grant talks about. It's really interesting. That's interesting.
No, it is.
Those people they don't need a vaccine effectively.
No,
No.
That's true. And we're just about to come to the end of the show now. So, but it's but the point that Maz just made, where it's saying about why we haven't got the cure for the common cold. I'm sure if you ask Grant, he'll have loads of stuff to talk about this because they don't want to cure the common cold. Anyway, we'll stop there. We don't want to get into that conversation. Thank you very much to all the guests today, to Grant, to Maz, and Azar as well. Thank you very much. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock on this channel. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Ciao.